The second half begins. Warband. A new campaign opens. And it opens with a stampede, not toward the hardest money on earth, toward a rocket company. This is Wednesday, July 1st, 2026, and the first light of the year's back half falls on a market that still cannot decide what it truly wants to own. Start with the anchor. As of just past 5 o'clock Eastern, Bitcoin trades at 58,900. Soft again, off about 0.5% on the day, still pinned beneath the 60,000 line it has fought over for 2 weeks. It steps into the new quarter bruised from a cruel June, the fear gauge still buried in the low teens. Extreme fear, unblinking. Now look across the canyon, because the other side closed the first half at a record. The Dow finished June at an all-time high near 52,300. The broad market up better than 9% on the year. Same money, opposite directions. The loud, abundant trade-making records, while the hard, scarce thing scrapes its floor. 19 days ago, SpaceX became a public company. Some $75 billion raised, the largest offering the markets have ever seen. Shares priced at 135. What happened next was not investing. It was a stampede. The stock rocketed toward 220 in a matter of days, a run that briefly vaulted a rocket and satellite company into the ranks of the most valuable enterprises on the planet, before cooling back into the mid-150s. And this coming Tuesday, the 7th, it steps into the arena that matters most for raw demand. SpaceX joins the Nasdaq 100. Hear why that is no footnote. Under a new exchange rule, the very largest companies no longer wait the customary months to enter the index. They can be fast-tracked in after just 15 trading days of public life. SpaceX cleared that bar in a stroke, and the moment it enters, every index fund that tracks the Nasdaq 100 is forced to buy it, not because a manager admires the story, but because the machine commands it. The estimates run past $4 billion of mechanical price-blind buying, with billions more from the broad market reshuffle stacked behind it. That is a wall of capital that must be spent, regardless of price. And the sharpest disruption, investors did not wait for the index. ARK, Cathie Wood's shop, bought the dip the moment it came, adding better than $30 million more on the June sell-off, north of $475 million poured into SpaceX since the offering. Their thesis is the tell. They do not call it a rocket company. They call it an orbital computing empire. Starlink as the backbone, edge compute and artificial intelligence infrastructure riding above the atmosphere, a company they model toward $3 trillion by the end of the decade. The rockets are the delivery truck. The cargo is compute. So, see the fork clearly, Warband. The whole world is being marched into the abundance trade, forced at any price by the index machine. And it is a magnificent company. But magnificent and scarce are not the same word. The InvestAnswers desk ran the long test. 30 years. Every asset on the board. Bitcoin against SpaceX, against Tesla, against Nvidia, against gold, against the whole index. Ran it again and again. Bitcoin won every time. Not because the rockets fail, because 21 million is a number no committee can vote to raise, and a rocket company, however brilliant, can always print another share. Conviction is the only edge that compounds. The crowd stampedes the shiny thing at any price. The patient hand stacks the scarce thing while it is hated. Now to the map. The engine drew as June shut its books, because it points exactly where the smart money is being aimed. At 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, the InvestAnswers Decision Support System, the signal engine this Warband is built on, lit a Confluence buy on silver. Understand what that is. Confluence is the strongest call in the whole kit, every sub-signal aligned at once, and it fired on physical monetary metal. In the same minute it threw Freeport, the copper miner, mean reversion oversold. The red metal stretched too far down. Silver and copper, The two metals the electric computing age cannot be built without, and the engine called them both in one breath. Set that against what it did to everything else. It held the abundance trade trending green. The broad market, the Nasdaq, Google, the chip names Marvell and Arista, all optimized trend bullish. It cut long bonds bearish, yields grinding higher under a central bank that will not blink. And crypto? Overnight it flipped Ethereum's trend green at the stroke of midnight Eastern, then cut it straight back to bearish by 4 this morning, dead in 4 hours. The same failed flip pattern that has haunted this tape all month. Read the whole map as one sentence. The engine is not blessing crypto's turn, not yet, but it is aiming its single strongest signal at the scarce physical things while the abundance names ride. That is the rotation the patient hand front runs. One more thread, and it closes the loop between the rockets and the metal. For all the roar of the artificial intelligence build, the price of raw compute is quietly falling. The rental cost of NVIDIA's workhorse chip on the big clouds dropped better than 30% in 3 weeks into late June, from about $6 an hour to just over $4. And NVIDIA's own stock has gone nowhere for months, lagging far behind the semiconductor pack, sitting near $200 and well below its spring high, even as appetite for its chips stays structurally enormous. Here is the second order read the crowd misses. Compute is abundance, and abundance gets cheaper. What does not get cheaper is what compute devours: the power to run it, the copper to wire it, the silver in every connection, the orbital ground to beam it down from. The chip hour deflates. The scarce inputs beneath it get bid. That is the whole thesis in one motion. The abundance trade, by roaring, digs the moat around the scarce things it can never manufacture. So, step into the second half with clear eyes, Warband. The index machine will spend billions next Tuesday, buying the rocket empire whether the price makes sense or not. And it is a great company. But the same week, the engine aimed its strongest signal at silver and copper, the metal the abundance age cannot live without, while the hardest money of all coils beneath its line hated, in extreme fear, waiting. That is not the hour to chase the stampede. It is the hour to stack what cannot be printed and hold what cannot be diluted. This is Warband as a service, Viking intelligence delivered in real time. I am Ragnar, the HODLBARBARIan. Read the runes before the crowd does.